Why were colonial Creoles divided by wealth? Imagine a society built on the idea that everyone was supposed to be equal, yet some people ended up with much more than others. That's exactly what happened in Latin America during the colonial era. Creoles, who were born in the Americas to Spanish or Portuguese parents, saw their status grow over time. But even within this group, wealth was not shared equally. Why? Let's break it down. First, the main way Creoles built their wealth was through land. They owned large estates called haciendas that produced sugar, tobacco, and wheat. These haciendas were like small kingdoms, with their own workers, chapels, and workshops. But not all Creoles had the same start. Some inherited big plots of land from their families, while others had to buy smaller pieces or work with limited resources. So early on, wealth was unevenly distributed based on how much land and money a Creole family had. Labor was another big factor. The colonial system gave landowners control over indigenous people through the encomienda system. Wealthy Creoles could buy enslaved Africans or control indigenous laborers, which meant they could produce more goods and make more money. Those with fewer resources could only afford smaller numbers of workers, limiting their profits. So, the more wealth a Creole had, the more labor they could command, and the richer they could become. Colonial governments also played a role. The Spanish crown kept control over the highest positions in government and the church, which were mostly filled by peninsulares or Spanish-born colonists. This meant Creoles couldn't easily access the top political or administrative jobs that could help them grow wealth. Some Creoles gained influence through local connections, but many remained on the economic sidelines because of this exclusion. Property rights added another layer of division. Land values changed over time, and as land became scarcer, prices went up. Early in the colonial period, land was plentiful and affordable, so many Creoles could buy and develop it. But as the century went on, land became concentrated in fewer hands. Wealthy Creoles who bought large tracts early kept their advantage, while newcomers faced higher costs and less land to acquire. Trade was also a dividing line. Larger Creole merchants with established networks could navigate colonial trade restrictions better than smaller traders. They could access more markets and make bigger profits. Smaller traders with limited connections found it harder to compete, creating a gap between the wealthy merchant class and others. The idea of blood purity, called limpieza de sangre, also affected economic opportunities. Creoles with stronger Spanish heritage or better family ties to Spain often had easier access to credit, land, and business deals. Those with less Spanish blood or weaker connections faced more obstacles in building wealth. Regional differences made a difference too. Coastal cities with ports had access to transatlantic trade, making their Creole residents wealthier through shipping and commerce. In contrast, interior regions relied mainly on farming, which often meant less wealth and fewer opportunities for growth. So, geography played a role in how wealth was spread among Creoles. Finally, legal issues and inheritance patterns kept wealth uneven. Land titles could be contested, and estates often split among many heirs, especially in large families. Families that kept their land intact or practiced primogeniture, where the eldest inherited everything, maintained their wealth better. Newer families or those with many heirs often saw their estates divided, reducing their overall wealth. All these factors combined created a society where Creoles, despite sharing a common origin, were divided by how much wealth they could accumulate and keep. These differences shaped the social and economic landscape of Latin America during the colonial era and set the stage for future inequalities.